Adopt, don't shop. The mantra of idiots. Let's address this topic because you see variations of it being represented on our Facebook, on our YouTube, okay? There's always some special person in the comments that's clutching their heart and, you know, talking about the poor dogs in the shelters and how we're only contributing to the problem and that nobody should breed until that problem's been taken care of. We have such a problem with homeless dogs in this country that you've got rescues importing hundreds, if not thousands of dogs every year from third world countries, okay? Dogs of unknown health, dogs of unknown temperament. Well, let's not say that they're so unknown. They're pretty known. They're known to the extent that our country has had to pass laws about importing dogs from third world countries where they've basically banned the importation of dogs from a lot of these countries completely because it was such a problem. These retail rescues importing, you know, thousands of dogs with all sorts of weird diseases and parasites and, you know, health problems and not to mention the behavioral problems. Listen, I'm a professional dog trainer. I see the behavioral problems firsthand when people import feral dogs from other countries here. Okay, so don't tell me about all the homeless dogs in shelters when they're actually importing more dogs than any retail breeder ever imports, okay? Don't compare dogs from shelters to dogs that are the result of many, many generations of forethought, of careful intention, of testing, right? We're not just producing dogs random. The dogs that my clients need, the dogs that the organizations that my business serves needs are not random dogs. They're not the product of random chance. They're the product of multiple generations of careful testing, careful evaluation, right? Careful breeding. This is not just something that happens. Okay, German Shepherds that we produce here, the Malinois, the herders, they're not just random chance, all right? And to compare it to, you know, the product of a shelter, right, which is basically random chance, which is bad decisions, right? To compare what we're doing here or what any working breeder worth their salt is doing to that is an absolute fallacy. Look at this horse, okay? I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, you can see the horse, okay? This is an Andalusian, okay? Now, you can buy a horse for $500 on Kijiji. Now, I didn't want a horse for $500, not because I have a problem with horses, not because, you know, I'm an elitist or anything like that. I wanted something specific. I wanted a specific set of character traits, right? That's a 3-year-old Andalusian stallion. I wanted a very specific set of character traits. I wanted structural traits and I wanted character traits. So I went to a horse that came from a reputable breeder. He is the result of probably hundreds of years at this point, if you know anything about the Andalusian breed. Hundreds of years of careful testing, forethought, and intention. Why would I go get something random when I could have that, right? Now look, if I had unlimited land and I wanted to, you know, help a horse in need, sure, I'd do it. But horses, well, I mean, for me, they have function just as dogs do. They have a use, they have a function, they have a purpose. We need specific traits. We need specific structural, health, and behavior traits in the animals that we use. And going to something where you don't know any of that stuff because it is the product of random chance, right, or bad decisions, it's irresponsible. So this adopt, don't shop, no. Adopt, don't shop is basically saying reward bad decisions, reinforce bad choices, create a market for dogs of no particular breeding, no particular testing, and no particular purpose. Again, I've owned rescues. I like all dogs. Any dog deserves to be given the best treatment possible. But to pretend that a rescue dog is the exact same thing as a dog that comes from multiple generations of intention, forethought, and testing, for whatever purpose or reason that specific breed exists for, is absolute idiocy. It is an absolute mental deficiency. And if you're one of those individuals, do me a favor. Close your mouth, research Genetics 101. Understand why genetics are important. Listen, dogs are the product of 1,000 years plus, maybe 5,000, no, it's not even 1,000, sorry. It's like 5,000 plus years of domestication. There's nothing natural about them. We've been breeding them for generations for specific purposes. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what's enabled them to become such an integral part of our lives and our society and our culture. I love dogs. But we need to honor that purity. We need to honor that intention that has been happening for thousands of generations. Okay? So I'm not saying don't adopt a dog. If you have, if you're willing to take the risk and you want to do something nice for an animal in need, by all means adopt a dog. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I want something that's predictable. I want something that looks a certain way, that acts a certain way, and that can, most importantly, from my perspective, as somebody that really appreciates working dogs, can fulfill a certain purpose. And no, you don't just find that in a random shelter. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. Okay? So personally for me, I don't actually make money breeding dogs, right? There are breeders that do. They make money breeding dogs. And as long as they're producing a good product, as long as they're producing strong, healthy dogs that are in high demand, that can fulfill various purposes, whatever that breed is bred to do, by all means, go do it. Go get it. I have no problem with that. We live in a capitalistic society, right? Value is rewarded. If you're producing value, you should be rewarded. Just as the breeder of this horse, charged a pretty penny for that horse. And I was willing to pay it because I wanted the value that hundreds and hundreds of years of forethought and intention represented, that, she has a piece of in her breeding program. So I'm not saying don't adopt a dog. I'm saying understand that it is not the same thing, okay? An adoption is a choice, and purchasing from a breeder is a choice, and there's nothing morally superior in either choice, all right? The most important thing is you select the dog that's right for you, your family, and your situation, because that is going to optimize the life of that dog, and it's going to optimize your life, and both of those things are important. How can you have a good life with your dog? And how can that dog have a good life if he's in a substandard situation, if you're not happy and if he's not happy, okay? So I'm all for, responsible breeding, dogs for specific purposes, dogs with predictable health and predictable structure. But guess what? There are dogs that end up in unfortunate situations. Not nearly as much as the virtue signalers on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube would have you believe. Most of those people don't know anything about dogs. Listen, they're generally pretty unhappy people that I find in many cases are pretty shitty human beings. And instead of addressing that, they try to find some meaning and purpose in their life by championing dogs in the comments section on various Instagram and YouTube posts, right? Instead of actually doing something productive and helping society and helping people. But that's a topic for another day. Anyways, rant complete. I hope you understand a little bit about where I'm coming from. Now, as I mentioned already, I don't actually really make money breeding. I breed for my program because, unfortunately, I can't import enough dogs to fulfill the needs that my clients have, whether they be individuals or organizations. Okay? There is a strong need for good working dogs, single-purpose and dual-purpose working dogs. And there are simply not enough dogs that have the quality and the ability that are available, either locally or even internationally. So stop the nonsense. If you really don't know what you're talking about, educate yourself before you start making stupid comments in the section.